Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Beyond McMaster Young Alumni panel. We are going to wait a couple more minutes just as people start to file in, and then we will get started. Welcome to our Beyond McMaster Young Alumni panel. I'm very excited that all of you are choosing to spend your Tuesday evening with us for the next hour to listen to some of our amazing speakers talk about their experiences. So everyone that is going to be on our panel today is a McMaster alumni. So we are excited to hear all of their diverse experiences of their time at McMaster and where it has led them going forward. I would like to begin with a land acknowledgement. McMaster University greatly values truth and reconciliation. And with that, we recognize and acknowledge that we are situated on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee nations, and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. This agreement just symbolizes the mutual understanding that we are to take only what we need from the lands we are on and to share those resources amicably. We have a ton of Indigenous student supports on our campus for students who want to learn a little bit more about the history and culture, or for Indigenous learners themselves. So I always encourage students to really reach out to those resources as they are very accessible on our campus. We have a fantastic panelist lined up tonight. I'm very excited to hear about their experiences, and I'm hoping that you are all going to get all of your answers, all of your questions answered going forward about maybe what McMaster looks like after graduation. So we do actually have a Q&A function in the bottom of the screen that my lovely colleague James is going to be moderating. And so he will kind of go through there, and some of the questions will be sent to me for live answering. And then some also might be answered by him in the chat. So if you have any burning questions, I really recommend going through there and answering those. My name is Maddie. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a recruitment outreach coordinator at McMaster University and a very proud McMaster alumni. I graduated just in June, so this event is near and dear to my heart. I'm very excited to hear what some of my peers have been up to and just to facilitate some fun discussion that all of you get to listen in on today. So without further ado, I would love for my panel to introduce themselves. So we'll start left to right. And I just want you to go over kind of what's already on the screen actually. So what year you graduated, what program you completed at McMaster, and where you are now. So we're going to get more into that as we go on through the panelist event. But Aryan, I would love for you to kick us off.
Thank you so much, Maddie. Hello everyone. My name is Aryan. I am a Mac graduate myself, so I graduated in 2024. I started off in the Life Sciences Gateway program and specialized in biology. So I graduated with a honors Bachelor of Science with a minor in economics. I know both of those things are very, very far apart in terms of the scope of study, but it really gave me that wide breadth of information, wide breadth of like, I guess how the world works and the understanding of the world. And I took a year off between my undergrad and what I'm currently doing. I worked in the recruitment office as a recruitment outreach coordinator at McMaster. And now I'm currently pursuing my MBA program. So I'm in the Masters of Business Administration at the Groot School of Business. This is the MBA co-op program, and I'm currently in my second term. So I'm doing my first co-op, started in September. And yeah, that's where I currently am.
I love that. I love that you had such a different experience from where you thought you were going to start and continued on. I'm so excited to unpack that more as we go through the rest of the event. Joanne, I would love for you to go next.
Thanks, Maddie. Hi, everyone. My name is Joanne. I attended the DeGroote School of Business for my undergrad. It's the name of the program was Integrated Business and Humanities, and I did an internship for 1 year. So I did it at Volvo Car Canada as a marketing intern, and then I graduated in 2023. And then since then, I've had three jobs, well, which I'll probably get into later. But right now, I'm working in the Ontario Public Service in the Ministry of Health, and the division that I work in is emergency health. So if you have any questions, oh, I also got a certificate in professional French. I had very limited electives at undergrad, so I just use them all to get a French certificate. And if you have more questions, we can talk about that later. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, Joanne. Again, someone who kind of took a different path. So excited to hear about that later on. Sam?
Hi everyone, my name is Sam. I graduated from the Honors Life Science program in 2025, very recently, and we're going to do a little gear shift here because I actually started my undergrad in social sciences. So it was the entry or gateway social science entry program. And then in my second year, I switched over to life sciences, stayed there, minored in community engagement, and did a science communication certificate. But now I'm working as a multimedia journalist at our campus radio station and newspaper. If you've heard of The Silhouette or 93.3 CFMU, that's where I am doing a 1 year contract under our student union. And then I'm headed off to bigger organization this summer at CBC. So I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, thanks for having me, everyone.
Amazing. Sam, I am so excited to unpack kind of what made you change all of these different things as we go through. And I would love to hear more about community engagement and science communications. Sarah, we'll end off with you.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Sarah. Use she, her pronouns. I graduated just very recently in this past November, 2025. And in terms of my degree, I did my degree in oh my God, in political science with a specialization in public law and judicial studies. So that, and then I ended up in a career path that was very aligned with my degree. But I do also want to emphasize that I took a lot of different turns and loops to get here, but I currently work as the executive assistant to Ontario's Minister of Sport, the Honourable Neil Lumsden. He is also a member of provincial parliament for Hamilton East Stony Creek. So I'm a political staffer, and if you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask. And I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. Really excited to hear what wisdom you have to impart on us as we go through. So the first question I do want to ask all of you is probably one of my favorite questions to ask as I ask anyone who's been to McMaster or is a current student or is going to be an alum, why did we choose McMaster? The burning question, why did you decide that McMaster was the right choice for you when you were in our audience members' seats and deciding what school was right for you? What led you here? I'll start with you, Aryan.
All right, awesome. It's a very, very good question. So I would say that I chose McMaster mainly because I wanted to find a university that had a supportive community that allowed me to achieve where I wanted to be personally and professionally. So a lot of people don't believe this whenever I tell them, but I'm naturally a very shy person, very quiet, very reserved in the sense that I struggle in sometimes social situations, but when I got into university or when I was thinking about getting into university, I didn't want to be like that person anymore. I wanted to be someone who was naturally a bit more extroverted or could at least survive in different social gatherings or just situations. So I thought the only place to do this would be a place where I felt comfortable enough to get out of my comfort zone. And I think when I visited McMaster, when I spoke to a lot of people that went to McMaster, I kind of got the sense that this is the place where I would be okay getting out of my comfort zone and pushing myself beyond what I thought were my limits. And thankfully enough, over the course of my 4 to 5 years in undergrad, I've been able to kind of get that experience where I got to lead teams, where I got to speak to different people, kind of just handle myself in social situations where it was still supportive enough for me to feel comfortable doing so. And now when I look at myself today, I'm someone who's been able to compete in like speaking based competitions or case competitions, deliver presentations in front of people who, or crowds that have been like, let's say, the size of five or up to like 200. And I think the only reason I've been able to do that is because of my time at McMaster. So that's why I chose it. And it's been a very fruitful journey over the years. And yeah.
I love that. I remember the first time you told me that you were shy, and was not believing you at one bit. But it is amazing that you talk about the community because I think that is something that a lot of people do strive for when they're choosing what university to go to. It is so important to go to a university that makes you feel supported and excited to learn because that's your new home, right? So you want to make sure that where you're going to be going is what's best for you. Joanne, how about you?
Yeah, so I think in high school I had my whole like life planned out. I knew that I wanted to go to the University of Ottawa and do international studies there. So I had applied to that, and then I also applied to McMaster because I really liked the dual program of business and humanities because I was really into like law and wanting to kind of pursue that route. But then it you end up with a commerce degree, so that kind of attracted me of oh like that's like a very practical degree where you can do a lot of different things after. So then I accepted Ottawa initially, and then I went to May at Mac, and then I met a lot of different people, talked to the professors of our program, and I don't know, I just kind of made a decision on that day that I'm going to cancel Ottawa and come to McMaster. And I think the campus was so beautiful. I already had a lot of older friends who went to McMaster and had such a good experience with the community and with the clubs that they were involved with. And I think my heart just kind of led me to say, okay, I think this is a comfortable place where not too far from home that I could really see myself being a part of. And I really didn't regret the decision because our classroom sizes were like our cohort was 60 people. So you kind of really get to know the people that you're studying with. And I really liked that kind of individualized care from the professors to the students. And the clubs that I were a part of, I'm still really close to a lot of people to this day. So yeah, I kind of emphasize what Ariane said as well about community is such a big part of McMaster. And I think that's why a lot of people are drawn to it. So yeah.
Thank you. I love that you brought up May at Mac. I think it's coming up actually. Get excited. May 9th, Saturday, is going to be our spring open house, May at Mac, which I'll talk about near the end of the call. But this is a great way for you to come see what campus is like, talk to academic professors and different staff, but that also like current students and see what the university is actually like on a day-to-day. So I'm glad that you were able to come to that, and I guess our advertisements were working back then too. So I'm really happy that you're able to experience that, and it helps sway your decision because you're right. There's a lot of well-rounded aspects of McMaster that allow students to really get a little bit of everything while they are here. Sam, I'll have you go next.
Yeah, absolutely. Now hearing Ariane and Joanne's answers, I'm like, wow, you guys did your research while you were in high school. If I'm being so honest, I chose Mac because my friends were going to Mac and it was the closest option from home. I grew up in Toronto. I was so nervous to leave. I actually was thinking of staying in my city just so I didn't have to move away from home. It made me really nervous. And my mom actually had a lot of fear around that too. So moving out was a really huge step for us because she was like, well, what are you going to do? You know, what are you going to eat? There were so many considerations of like, you know, housing. It was also, we didn't know it yet, but when I made my decision, it was during COVID. So it was my the first year coming into it, and I hadn't decided in March, by March, like what university I was going to. So I just thought that it was the most comforting option at the time. And I am also so glad that I chose McMaster, just because like I soon came to learn, especially without having any direction or looking for something upon coming into university. I started to realize that whatever interest I did have, there was an avenue to explore that. Whatever extracurricular through clubs, services through the McMaster Student Union, or even all of the communities that we have a lot of cultural communities and very, very specific groups that meet on a weekly basis, all run by students, which was excellent upon like to my surprise. And I very soon realized that there was a much bigger purpose than just choosing it for friends or for the location. It soon became like a wonderful place of learning and home. So yeah.
I love that. I'm so happy that you brought up like that jump from moving from home to a university. I think that is such a daunting experience that a lot of students really do face. I remember myself included trying to figure out what university was far enough that I got my independence, but close enough that if I needed my mom, I could go home and talk to her. And it sounds like you did just that. And I'm so happy that you're able to find such a community that supported all different avenues for what your interests were. And I'm excited to hear more about that later on.
And now I'm moving and I'm like, I don't want to go home now. I'm so scared. No.
You'll be
It's
fine. You
okay.
got this. Sarah, I'll end up with you.
Yeah, so similar to Sam, when I was applying to university, it was during the pandemic, so it was obviously a very tumultuous time to be making big life decisions. I also remember being very, very set on a certain path and a certain university, but also being encouraged by so many people to, branch out, look at other places. You never know what you can find. And so I did just that. I remember I took a virtual tour of McMaster, and in a funny way, I feel like that was what kind of made my decision for me. And it's crazy to think that that could have happened through a computer screen, but I really felt like, well, for one, the campus just through the pictures looked beautiful. It looked like something straight out of like a Harry Potter book. And then second, I just felt like the students were so incredibly passionate about what they were talking about. And I felt like you didn't really like I hadn't really at that point in my university exploration journey found that elsewhere. I guess I just had really good tour guides on that call. But yeah, they started talking a lot about the different student supports, the different club experiences, extracurriculars, and all of that. And I started feeling like I could really see myself at McMaster. And I remember I accepted my offer very shortly after, and I actually got to see the campus a couple months after that, after I had already made the decision. And boy, did I make the right decision for me. I really think that McMaster transformed like every aspect of me. Like I look at who I was when I first came to who I am now, and I attribute a lot of those positive changes to my time at McMaster. A lot of it through the extracurriculars, and I think a lot of it too through the community. I think if there's one thing you take away from this calls, and you'll hear me talk about it a lot today, the community at Mac is very, very unique and very special. And it really has the power to shape you as an individual and help you find your place in the world more broadly. So, yeah, little long span answer, but I hope that gave you a good idea of why I chose McMaster.
I love that. I love that you were able to find yourself on campus or through the virtual way, but also on campus yourself. I truly believe that going to the university campuses when you're deciding what schools are important to you is the best thing that you can do. It allows you to kind of step foot on that campus and say, can I actually see myself here? And when you're able to do that, you know what the right decision is. And so I'm glad that you were able to do that. We do have a question from someone in the audience that I think will be a little fun. So the question was, if your amount of time and attention was a pie, how big of a slice of the pie should you focus on programs and studies during the day? And I'm going to add to it and say, what slice of the pie should you focus on outside of academic things? And I'm going to switch things up, and I'm going to actually start again with you, Sarah, and we're going to go in reverse order.
Okay. So how much time should you dedicate to, okay. So I would say, academics are incredibly important. I'm never going to sit here and tell anyone that, you should slack off and not do well in school. Obviously, you should try your best. That's all you could do at the end of the day. I would say your academics should take up about two-thirds in my opinion. And I think, well, maybe a little bit more than that. Actually, sorry, I'm not very good at measurements and things like that, but okay, we'll say half of that pie. And I do truly think that the other half of that, well, two-thirds, I guess, should be your extracurriculars and your life outside of your academics on your campus. And then obviously a lot of time dedicated to you as well in your own personal life, because I believe that that's super important. I'm a big proponent and my time at McMaster really, really taught me this. I think obviously my program and the things that I learned through my courses got me to the place where I am today. They definitely contributed, but I think I would attribute more of that actually to the people that I met at McMaster through the extracurriculars that I did end up doing. I took on a lot of, I remember thinking throughout my undergrad, like, ugh, did I take on too much? Like, did I sign up for too many clubs? Did I get too many on campus jobs? And now looking at it, now that I'm through the other side, I really think that that is the biggest favor that I could have done for myself. Is there some times where I could have, put more attention into the academics? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I think something that I learned very quickly as soon as I hit the real world, and I say that in quotation marks because you are in the real world when you're in university, but I think something that hit me a lot was that your grades don't necessarily follow you for the rest of your life. I think that a lot of it has to do with your attributes. Are you a hard worker? Are you someone who is varied in your interests? Are you someone who is curious about the world? And I do truly think that all of those sides of me opened up, not just through my academics, but a lot of it had to do with my extracurriculars and the people that I met through them. So yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm very bad at math, but I hope you can maybe envision my pie. Sorry about that.
I love that. Um, I love that you talked about kind of like that balancing of all the different aspects, but you included this part about your personal time. I think when you're coming into university, you have to give yourself grace to learn and find that balance. You're not going to come in on your first day and know exactly what to do. None of us did. We had to kind of learn as we went through on how to balance your academics with your extracurriculars, with your personal life, and just be patient with yourselves. I'm going to swing it over to Joanne.
That was unexpected. I think for me, I would say maybe 50-50 academics and extracurriculars, jobs, kind of personal life, social life on the other side. Uh, and maybe it's because I studied business, but as important as the technical skills and like the academics were in contributing to my like student life, I also think the connections that I made, the friendships I made, kind of the person I was working to become was a lot more important, especially when I went into working internship, but also after graduating. For us, I think interviews are quite important. So I did spend a lot of kind of undergrad honing in on those skills, but they really want to see what kind of person you are. Like kind of what Sarah said, what are your interests? What are your hobbies? Like, are you, yeah, the type of person to maybe be more critical thinking and like how to problem solve. And if you can demonstrate that in the experiences that you've had, not just what you've studied and kind of the books that you've read, I think that working on personal and professional development is very important. And so there was a lot of like cultural or religious clubs that I was part of that helped build the community aspect for me, but also Degree offered a lot of clubs that helped with whether it be public speaking, how to do interviews, how to write your resume, and then, of course, like even part-time jobs like throughout Hamilton or on campus also helped build community, but also get that hands-on experience of what working is like. And the internship and I guess co-op kind of proportion for me was really big. And I am so grateful that I had that before like graduating and going into working right away. So I would say half half for me.
I love that. Yeah, I think you build upon so many skills in every aspect of your life, and you don't really know in the moment that that's going to prepare you for something later on. And that's why it's so important to just do what you're interested in and follow your passions, and that's going to lead you to where you're going to end up. So I love that you were able to pull from so many different experiences that kind of led you to where you are now and helped you get a job in your field that you're in. Um, Arian, I'm going to go with you next.
So first off, Maddie, thank you so much for not starting off with me. Gave me some more time to think about my answer. So appreciate it with that. Okay. The way I would kind of pose this question is I'm gonna kind of echo what Joanne and Sarah said a little bit. But my pie is gonna look a little bit different in the sense that, or maybe not, but I would say in terms of academics, I believe that about a third should go to academics and then two-thirds should go to other things. And the reason why I say that a third should go to academics and then two-thirds to other things is because maybe because of my experiences, but I just truly believe that when you're in university, yes, studies are important and studies play a big role in what you're doing, especially when you're looking at what you want to do after that. But I think that I think students have to generally, and me personally, I was looking at how do I holistically grow as a person? Because when I'm looking at how I was when I was started university and then how I am currently, I don't think that I would have got to where I am today if I didn't kind of go ahead and look at how I can develop myself as a whole person rather than just focusing on studies. Like when I think about what I'm doing right now, me being in an MBA program, me doing the things that I currently am, I that would have never happened had I not, taken up a job as a tour guide, had I not then got into the recruitment office as a recruitment outreach coordinator, had I not made the networking connections that I have, and then to get to where I currently am. So I think that as a person entering university, it's very important to kind of look at who you want to be when you are looking, let's say like 2, 3, 4 years in the future, and then kind of retrace those steps. Because yes, school and academics give you that technical knowledge, but when you look at what's beyond that, it's who you are as a person. What kind of things can you do beyond the books? Are you a good critical thinker? Can you solve problems? Can you communicate, which is such a big skill that I've seen, even navigating the co-op jobs and the real world jobs that I look at through my MBA program. Because you need to look at developing those as well as getting the technical skills.
Thank you. I saw many heads nodding from our panelists during that one. Um, I think you're right. There's so much growth that happens that is crucial to kind of where you start and where you end up. And you're still the same person when you graduate, but you are so much more. You've picked up all of these different skills and experiences along the way that have just given you the tools to do well and succeed later on. I'm so happy that you were able to build upon all those skills and you've had a very twisty turny kind of pathway, right? So all of those skills contributed to that and helped you kind of figure that out. So yeah. Sam, will end up with you.
Thanks, Maddie. All right. The one thing I will say is that every single year, your pie is going to look very different. I think when you begin university, undergrad, especially like your first year, especially, you have a set timetable. So you have these courses that you're going to, regardless if you do an extracurricular, if you get involved or not. So academics are going to be a lot bigger for you. And I found throughout my years, it slowly dwindled, not because I cared less, but because I had my eggs in other baskets now. So, like the extracurriculars that all Sarah, Joanna, and Arian touched upon. But the one thing that I do want to highlight for this question in particular is a great question, is actually my experience with experiential learning. So, this was the perfect hybrid between your academics and actually getting that applied learning experience that we were all talking about through your extracurriculars or through co-ops. These types of courses, so community engagement is an example, but also courses like Explore, Sustain. I think we have Inspire, a couple different options. They all have like very like whimsy names, and I'm sure Maddie could send resources or references at the end. But these courses essentially encapsulates the technical and academic side of the like textbook learning alongside applying it to real life examples. Sometimes those real life examples include you as a student going out into your community, doing workshops with students in public schools, at public libraries, or working, if you're interested in infrastructure, you might get to work on projects that help with Hamilton's urban planning. So they have really unique courses that actually amalgamate these two worlds where you can still put your time into your academics. It's for a grade, and it's still really important because it works on those communication skills, all the transferable skills essentially that you will be putting into any job. So I would really look, McMaster has so many avenues for experiential learning. So I feel like as I learned more about that from my third year onwards, I feel like my academics like dwindled because I was doing more of these experiential learning opportunities. So, and it also applied and gave me opportunities to pursue other outside of school activities. And that was so integral for me. So, yeah.
I love that. I agree. I think I like that you separated into different pies per year because each year you're approaching your academics differently. Your first year, you're adjusting to a big jump. You're coming from high school, trying to figure that out. And then as you build upon experiences, you figure out where your passions are. You focus towards those in certain years. And I love that you brought up the different experiential learning. There's a lot of great ways for students to get real hands-on experience in the world, in the community, in Hamilton, just in Ontario, even within the school. It's a really kind of bridge the learning that you have from the classroom to what could bring you a job one day. Awesome. So the next question I have for you all is I actually know for a fact that all of you were very involved in your undergrad. So I'm going to kind of pull on that for the next question. And I would like you to share some of the ways that you got involved outside of the classroom at McMaster, and some key takeaways that you maybe experienced throughout your time. This can be anything with like co-op, internship, sports, clubs, anything, you name it. I'd love to hear about it. And Joanne, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. I think I will speak a bit about kind of internship, but also during my time in undergrad, the cultural religious clubs that I was part of. I think I mentioned when I first came to McMaster, or I was deciding about it, I had friends who had already started going to the school. So they were the ones who kind of introduced me to some of the extracurricular social clubs. And yeah, for me, I think exploring my faith was a really big thing going into university, where it's like your first time by yourself, away from your parents, kind of figuring out what you believe in and your values and how you want to live in this world. And so having a community kind of guide me through that in a time where I had so many questions, so many doubts was so important in my late teens, kind of early 20s. And so if there's anything that you wanted to explore further, whether it be sports or interests that you have or hobbies, or for me, for example, that was faith, there's so many clubs at McMaster and people who come from all over, it could be the world or even GTA or Ontario or Canada that have so many different life experiences that you can hear from, that you can grow together with and learn more about these things with. And like I mentioned, I still have friends from these clubs to this day. So they're kind of the same time my social group, but also my networking group. Like I've worked with some of these people in the real world too after graduating. And so it's really, yeah, just so important to find your support circle or your social groups in university. And then also for internship. I don't know if every, I guess, program will have corporate internship opportunities, but I know lots of people who find it on their own too. But you kind of get to figure out what you like and don't like through working and through volunteering and trying different things. Because, yeah, I did marketing for my internship, but I am in the government now, and I don't really do that much like social media or marketing. But it was good for me to get a taste of what that would look like in a corporate setting and kind of take those skills that I learned in my internship and brought it to the jobs that I did after graduating. And yeah, I think even like part-time jobs that I did, I worked at Student Union. I don't know if it's still the convenience store on campus, but I did like TA jobs, like tour guide for outside of McMaster, but kind of helps me realize what kind of demographic I want to work with. Like, do I want to work with kids? I want to work with adults. Do I want to work in communications? I want to do like finance stuff, which I realize I do not want to do. So, yeah, I think finding yourself through trying all those things is super important. So I would highly recommend for anyone coming in.
I love that. I think it's so important to, when you're in those clubs and you're finding your like-minded people, because they can bring you to different things that you didn't even know you were excited about and interested in. And like you said, like you try things out that you like and that you don't like. I remember joining so many clubs in my first year and then realizing, okay, maybe I don't need to do that many as I go through and just pick the few ones that I really, really strongly enjoyed. I love that. Sarah, I'll go to you next.
I love these surprise questions. All right. Okay, so to your point, I really do think that now when I look back at the extracurriculars and things that I was involved in, I think there was a theme as to what I would end up liking once I did end up graduating and where I want to actually take my career now. So in terms of my career right now, I work on an operations team within a ministry, and I think that a lot of that was born out of the different clubs and things that I did when I was at McMaster. I did a couple different things. I played around throughout my undergrad. One of the experiences that I want to highlight is my time during Welcome Week. So, Welcome Week is the week prior to you actually starting your studies at McMaster. So, it's an entire week dedicated to orientation programming for incoming first year students to the university. I I joined like later on in my undergrad as a representative, and I loved it so much. And not just because I'm a loud person and I got to be loud throughout that entire week and just help students as much as possible in such a transitionary period in their life, but I also really love the organizational aspects of it, the moving pieces, all the different events that we have to put on, the different themes that we have to touch on. That was something that was that I was found myself to be really passionate about. So I actually ended up taking on the planner role the following year, and that involved so many different things. I think I've never worn more hats than that time in my life, but it involved a lot of event planning, schedule coordination, budget planning, which I took on primarily, which was very interesting for me. I'm not good at math, remember? But yeah, but back to sorry. But yeah, lots of different things that I ended up doing through that role. And when I found myself applying to the role that I'm in now and that I love so much right now, I actually found myself pulling a lot from that, because it really was when I was talking about like being good in a fast-paced environment, being good at quickly learning things, being good at adjusting my priorities, and also working with other people. It really all went back to that one experience. So that's one experience in my undergrad that really took me to very far lengths. And I'll also mention that the job that I'm in right now was actually held by the previous planner for social sciences Welcome Week. So if I hadn't done that experience, I wouldn't have known her, and she wouldn't have come up to me and told me, "Hey, I think you'd be good for this." And so yeah, I just always look back at Welcome Week and I'm like, wow, it really made my life right now. But in terms of other things that I was involved in, I was also the co-president of the McMaster Political Science Student Association. So that was an academic club, and it really, I've always been very passionate about politics and about also helping students in political science find careers outside of the mainstream ones. Nothing wrong with a law career, but at all, like trust me, I wished I was that for a very long time in my undergrad, but I ended up shifting gears. But yeah, so McMaster Political Science Student Association was a really, really fun one as well. I got to kind of exercise my mentorship. And then a student job that I took on campus was one that I believe also kind of kickstarted my career. I became a tour guide in my second year, and then a tour guide leader. And then my first full-time job after graduating was as the campus tours coordinator for a couple months. And without the skills that I had learned and without the team that I had worked with at that time, I really don't think that I would have been where I am today, and I wouldn't have been as good. Aryan was talking earlier about communication. Communication is something that you really learn to hone in on as a tour guide. And I never put that together when I was in my second year, but then I ended up just kind of taking these very big takeaways. So again, really long answer. I'm so sorry to James and Maddie. But yeah, when I was saying before that my extracurriculars really helped shape everything for me, I really meant it. You can end up learning things about yourself that you had no idea that existed. And I plan to take the things I learned throughout my extracurriculars with me for the rest of my life.
I love that. I find that so applicable to so many people's stories, right? Is you're going through something, you're pulling experience for different jobs, and then going into a direction that maybe you didn't initially expect. Like I think about this job, I did not know that it was possible to be a recruitment outreach coordinator, but it was with my job as a tour guide when I was in my student life that I decided that was something that was possible for me. So it's always important to put yourself out there and really use those connections to your benefit, and follow your passions. It's my common theme for the day is just follow what your interests are. I'm gonna go off to Sam next.
Thanks, Maddie. Yeah, similar to Sarah and Joanne and Maddie, I tried a little bit of everything. But starting like my third year, coming into university in my second year during COVID, it actually I didn't leave my house that much, not because I wasn't interested, but it was very much just like class. We were still hybrid as well. So campus wasn't fully operational at the time. So I didn't actually jump into extracurriculars right away. But starting third year, I slowly started trying a couple of things here and there. But I honestly felt really behind because by my third year, a lot of my peers had been doing things since their first year. Even during COVID, they were a part of Welcome Week somehow. I don't know how, but they were. And they had been volunteering, and I just felt really behind. And I was really worried that, oh, I don't have this gradual growth of like, starting as this baseline role and then going to the next and the next. So I was a little worried, but I did. choose the one experience that currently applies to my life now, which was writing. So, writing for this one online magazine called Her Campus. It's a lifestyle magazine. And I wasn't actually a writer, I was too shy, but I chose to edit. And it was like very, very casual. It's one of the 272 clubs that we have ratified at McMaster. There's so many. But then on a whim before I took a fifth year also just because of this sense of feeling behind. I felt in my fourth year actually that there were more clubs and opportunities that I wanted to take, even courses that I wanted to take, and I didn't have a lot of time to on campus. So I ended up extending my undergrad, and then I just applied for another editor job at our campus paper, so the Silhouette, and I ended up getting it. I didn't actually understand what an editor was. Coming from a science background, I had no idea what any formal journalism looked like. So, an editor actually means that you're managing a whole section of students. So, you have writers, you have content that you're responsible for. And it really pushed me in a new direction. It's my current job, and I feel like it really honed in on a lot of skills that I had been learning from like academically and also in some of my extracurriculars, like from her campus, for example, and then also a few of the other ones that I touched upon earlier, like community engagement and some of those like science communication courses. So, yeah, I feel like th the moral of that story for me was realizing that you don't have to be the expert in the room to fill a position, even if it's volunteer, if it's part-time. There are a lot of part-time jobs in the McMaster Student Union as well, but you don't have to be an expert. A lot of people come into these roles to learn, and whether you have a direct supervisor or a team of students who are able to like teach you and be really gracious for you learning. It's been really wonderful. So yeah, and that led me to this full-time position this year, which is called a student opportunity position. They have some in the MSU, different departments like accounting, IT, campus events, and mine's campus media. So there are a bunch of different opportunities you can pursue. But yeah, for me, it was all about like coming into something thinking, oh, I am the imposter, and realizing that we're all here to learn as well. So yeah, all about the interest in what you pursue. But yeah.
Thank you, Sam. I feel like we've all kind of struggled with that imposter syndrome one way or another. But it is so important to try new things and put yourself out there because you never know where that's going to lead. And it happened for you. Ariane, we're going to finish off with you.
All right. Okay. So similar to kind of what Sam said, when I got into and this was probably again going back to the idea that I got into university as a very shy person. So for the first couple of years of my university, of my undergrad experience, didn't join a single club. And that was mainly because I always felt like I was holding myself back to do it. But then when I got to third year, flip switched in my head and I started saying yes to every single thing that came my way. I would apply to every single thing because of that feeling again of just sense of being left behind. And I think that's really where my experience at university changed because extracurriculars, whether it's a student job or whether it's a club that you're running or whether it's just a fun event that you're planning, I think adds to that excitement of being a university student because yes, you enjoy what you're studying, but to have a life outside of university where you feel like you're making a difference to the general community of McMaster is, I think, what truly gave me that sense of fulfillment because when I was in my third year, my fourth year, and even my fifth year, I got to really understand what it is that I like about the things that I do or the career that I want to make. And that came from the idea of working as like an events director for a club called Watson McMaster, which helps fundraise money for subsidizing the cost of medical procedures for people in kind of low-income countries or low-income communities, and then also starting a club called CFTC or Canada Feed the Children McMaster, which again provides meals to underserved children or children in underserved communities, and then also several mentorship opportunities. So one part of that kind of made me understand that as a person, I'm a very impact-driven person. Whatever I do, I want to make a difference in society, a difference to the community, a difference to even one person. So that was what those clubs did for me. It allowed me to fulfill a passion that, let's say, studies weren't necessarily doing because it was academic. And then on the other side, to kind of plug again the idea of being a tour guide, because I was also a tour guide at one point. That really, again, gave me that opportunity to change my entire life around because when I finally got into my last year, I told myself this year it's going to be the year that I apply to become a tour guide. And from then and there, I think it really gave me the opportunity to change my whole life around. Because when one door closes, another door opens, and you take advantage of that opportunity. And as I said before, being a tour guide has led me to being right where I am today. Because if I wasn't a tour guide, I would have never got my first full-time job outside of university when I had no clue what I was going to do. And if I didn't get that first full-time job, I wouldn't be the person that I am today in an MBA program. So I think it really gives you that opportunity to find yourself, figure out what you like, but also change your whole life around that you never thought you would ever have the opportunity to do.
Well said. I feel like there's so much growth that happens as you pick up different experiences along the way. That's incredible. My next question is, many of you I know have actually changed your career paths from what you initially thought you were going to do. Some of you have remained close to the same thing or in the same field. So I'm curious, how did your career goals develop and change throughout your studies, if at all? And what kind of did you not expect to kind of come from that? I will start with Sam.
What I didn't expect was to graduate, first and foremost. I actually started from my intro. I started in social science. Coming from like a tri-sci high school background, I was like, oh my gosh, STEM all the way, gonna like go to med school, gonna do nursing, something of the sort. I don't know, gonna cure cancer. And then I decided to pursue poli-sci in social sciences at McMaster. And but in my first year, while taking some of these soc sci courses, I was also like, there's still science in the back of my mind because I thought, science is the path that I have been on. I shouldn't divert. I think I felt a little bit of like the I don't know pressure because there's so much I don't know. This is like the only thing that I have been knowing. I should still, pursue that if I've put a lot of time into it. So I changed into life sci again, and then from there, I was just trying to figure out, what I was doing. And throughout like the next 4 years, I had no idea what I was going to do. I still considered med school, so I did prepare for my MCAT from second year. I did actually also look into some accelerated like nursing streams. You could even do after your life science or a couple years of science. And I don't know, for some reason, it just didn't feel right. Every time I took another course and I tried something, I was like, I don't know if this is really something that I want. I tried working in a pharmaceutical lab for a little bit, radiopharmaceuticals, for those of you who know half-lives and, really cool cancer research and injections and therapies. It was really interesting. But for some reason as well, like in my own discipline, I wasn't sure what I wanted. And it was kind of, as everyone says, through that trial and error and experiencing things, you realize maybe what you want or what you don't want. And I think what shocked me the most is that every single time I tried something, it came back to my initial gut instinct of the social sciences, actually what I picked in my first year. And had I given myself a little bit more time to reflect, even maybe taken a semester off or just think a little bit without the noise and be really like gracious to yourself. Like you aren't actually supposed to know what you're doing when you come into university. So asking those questions or even just taking time and sitting, writing like a pros and cons list, like thinking about it consistently. Do I like this? Do I want this? What is my life going to look like if I were to pursue this career? Do I want that? And I think that's like really important to give yourself that space to do it. And I think like having an extra year was really helpful in that having some really low moments and hard times of like, am I even gonna finish undergrad? Do I want to transfer schools? I don't really know. My grades, I don't know if my grades are good enough to do anything else after school, graduate school. But you also, after having those experiences, and maybe you don't have to do all of that as well. Maybe you can also save yourself a little bit from that by thinking about it too and asking, relying on your community as well. But really, like knowing that that just is the canon process and it's okay to try a bunch of things. But yeah, I was honestly surprised that I finished. That is my that's my main answer there.
I love that. Sorry, I love that. Um, I think it's really important to give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what they want to do when they start. Most people still don't know what they want to do. And so it's so important to really trust your gut. And again, on my pattern, go with what you're passionate about. Joanne, I'm going to head to you next.
Sure. I think I mentioned a bit earlier that I also did a lot of different jobs. I think from age 15 till now, I think I've had about 15 jobs, and that's like part-time jobs and like stuff like that. And I think honestly, I'm so thankful I tried so many different things because it helped me get to my current job, which I really, really love. And so I did my 1 year co-op slash internship at Volvo Car Canada, and I did marketing there. So then I thought, okay, like that was the year right before I graduated. So I did my final year of school and I was applying for a bunch of like marketing jobs. I was like, okay, I have this experience. It's been a year. Like, who wouldn't want to hire me? Apparently, nobody wanted to hire me. So I applied to all these things, got like interviews, but I didn't get the job or like just didn't hear back at all. And so it was like nearing February, March. I'm about to graduate in April. And so I just started reaching out to different friends and connections. And so I landed a job in insurance, which I did not expect to do at all. And so I was an underwriting assistant, which you help the underwriters like write policies for insurance. And I did not like that. I was like, this is the same thing every day, but a job is a job. So I was very thankful. But as I was in that job, I had a friend from high school reach out and say, I met someone at a networking event. She's looking for an assistant and she's a politician. So at first I was like, oh, I don't know if politics is really for me. But she said, oh, she works in the Ministry of Health. And so for me, healthcare is one of the routes that I did want to try, even if I'm not a healthcare professional, just whether it's business or government or something like that. So I said, okay, health is very interesting to me. I will try. Got into politics and then did that for about a year, working as an assistant for an MPP, member of provincial parliament. And I realized, oh, maybe this also isn't for me. I think it was a very like long hours job, but I learned a lot from it, especially communications and networking. And that's how I landed my current job as a it's called senior policy consultant, but I mainly do communications and I do that in the Ministry of Health on the public service side, which I love. I love my team. I love what I do. I love the hours. And I think if it wasn't for all the trial and error and realizing what my strengths are and kind of exactly what you said, Maddie, like what my hobbies and passions are, it helped me a lot. So I said, I would say in undergrad, try everything. Try figuring yourself out and what you actually are good at, what you do enjoy doing, and the types of people you want to work with, the types of management you want to work for. And yeah, I think as you go through these different experiences, it'll help solidify more of where you want to go. But failure is always going to be something that you're going to face. And I hope that that doesn't discourage you or that doesn't make you feel like, oh, this is the end of the world or my life, but that you can learn from rejections and failures until you get to the place where you are really fulfilled and very joyful. Yeah, and that's what I would recommend.
That was beautifully said. Just keeping trying and different things and kind of seeing where life takes you. Sarah, I will go to you next.
Alrighty. So I'm about I'm just a couple months out of my undergrad. And when I say this has been the most kind of it's been a very defining year of my life, but it's also been incredibly chaotic at times. I consider myself to be incredibly lucky because while there were definitely twists and turns, I think I landed somewhere where I am right now that I feel complete and I feel very fulfilled whenever I come home from work. But to start kind of where I like in terms of the turns and twists in my career. So, going very like far back into when I was going into my undergrad, I had a set idea and a set path. I said I was going to become a lawyer, and I was going to do my political science degree, and then I was going to become a lawyer and possibly a family lawyer is what I was thinking for whatever reason. And then throughout my undergrad, I kind of started picking up different things and realizing different sides of my personality where, like I don't actually like spending like lots of time reading lots of things. I don't like necessarily doing this. I like working in fast-paced environments. I like also working with people. That was really what became the defining thing and what really helped me when I graduated was I started to kind of trace back like why did I pursue a degree in political science? Where did this all start? And I think it all started with a passion, and I just wanted to serve my community. That's really all I wanted. I wanted a career where I felt like what I was doing was in. It didn't have to be in a major way, but in some way it was touching lives. Um, so for me, I wanted to find a way to put my skills, which I consider my skills to be very like behind the scenes. I always say that I really like doing things that nobody else likes to do. Like I love to schedule, like I love a good, well organized calendar. I love to organize things. I love managing priorities and different things like that. And I wanted to tie that into, again, feeling like the work that I was doing was meaningful and feeling like it was impacting people positively. So, in terms of the first job that I took on after I graduated, I loved McMaster so much that I could not possibly fathom leaving so soon after I had finished my courses. So I said, okay, I am going to stay here and see where this takes me because for so many years, my job in the recruitment office as a tour guide leader, and later as a campus tours coordinator served that purpose for me. I felt like I was going home every day and feeling like I helped somebody, whether it be through the tours that I did, whether it be through sitting at the front desk, whatever it was. And then there came a time, and it was only when like my friend approached me where I started thinking, I want to look outwardly. And that's when I started kind of reflecting and thinking, okay, um, again, like the degree in political science, where did this all start? How can I take this back into what I was very initially passionate about? And yeah, so the option at staying at McMaster was wonderful, but I think I just needed a change, and it was so incredibly daunting. Like I think honestly, the hardest decision that I made this year was leaving McMaster and deciding to kind of step outside of that environment and see where I could take myself. And so I ended up applying on a whim. And I literally said to myself, I was like, okay, if I get this job, I'm meant to go. If I don't, I'm meant to stay here for some time and look elsewhere. And I ended up getting the job. So yeah, so I ended up moving into being a political staffer, which is a very chaotic and tumultuous lifestyle. Um, can definitely be very exhausting. But I am literally so incredibly grateful at the end of every day. I get to travel, which is something that I had initially wanted when I was like going into my undergrad. That was one of the big things for me where I just want to be moving around constantly. So I get to do that. I also get to do all of the organizational things that I love to do. And I also get to interact with lots of different people around this province through our ministry file specifically, which I work for the Ministry of Sport, which is very fun. We get to open up different recreation centers around the province. We get to meet different athletes. If any of you know Scott Moore and Tessa Virtue, I met them a couple of weeks ago, which was pretty neat. But yeah, I love what I do so much, and I truly attribute that to all of the mistakes that I made. And I wouldn't even label them mistakes. I would say that they were all meaningful puzzle pieces that all came together so beautifully at the end. And I'm incredibly grateful that I got to where I was. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. So we have about 1 minute left for Aryan to answer. So I'll let you go from that, and then I will wrap up the rest of the session. But no, Sarah, don't worry. That was lovely to hear all of those things.
Okay, awesome. I'll speed run through this. But basically, I got into the life sciences program with the idea that I was going to go to med school, and I did everything possible to do that. I joined clubs, I did well in studies, I wrote the MCAT 3 times, Casper test, and pretty much did everything along the lines of trying to get into medical school. And I even did a fifth year because of that as well, to try and make myself a better candidate for medical school. At the end of it, it was like March of 2024. I get an offer of acceptance into a medical school in London. So it was a graduate entry medicine program for anyone who's coming out of undergrad to go into med school. And I was ecstatic. Dream come true. I thought my whole life was set. And then a couple months later, I find out that I am not able to get any loans or any money for the purpose of studying education or studying medicine. And at that point, my whole dream was ripped out from under me, and I had to figure out what else I wanted to do. And me being a life sciences student, I thought, okay, if it's not med school, it's nothing else. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do. And that's when I got, again, through my connections, I was able to get into a role through the recruitment office, and I worked my first full-time job after undergrad in there. And I think that really opened up my eyes to different opportunities and what I really wanted to do. Again, me being a very impact-driven person led me to the opportunity of like, okay, maybe if I get into this or that. Helping people, just seeing the spark of inspiration in people's eyes was something that I really enjoyed. And through the people and the teams and then the connections that I made, I ended up going into an MBA program where even to this day, I'm still able to have that same impact-driven lifestyle that I currently have. I'm an entrepreneur, so I own a business that helps works with youth to teach them financial literacy and makes the everyday tasks along the lines of managing finances better for people and make them more aware with those things. I'm working with a company that helps to make lung cancer screening a lot more accessible, COPD screening a lot more accessible for underserved communities around the province of Alberta and around Canada as well. So I'm still being able to live that life of impact-driven careers without having to be a doctor. And even then, I'm so grateful for the time that I spent in the life sciences program, even if I didn't get there. So if one thing that I would say to anyone who's looking to be a doctor or get into life sciences, it's not one single road that gets you to the specific place you want to be. There's so many different opportunities that lead from that life sciences degree. So keep your mind open and make sure that you spend time outside of class developing who you are, because that's why I'm such a big advocate of that, because if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to explore anything outside of that. So yeah.
Thank you, Arian. I love that you were able to blend both your love for health and business together and are still making those impacts today. But I totally agree with you. Having this idea from high school of these set jobs, you don't really know what's out there until you know what's out there. So I always suggest come in with an open mind and really just, again, similar pattern, follow those passions, put yourself out there, and use the supports that are available to you. Speaking of supports, I do want to highlight a few supports on the screen here. We have a ton of ways that you can get in touch with our team. If you have more questions after this panel, anything about your application, residence is coming up, feel free to reach out to us through our email, which is on our website, future.mcmaster.ca. We also have our live chat, in-campus tours, which were talked about earlier in this panel, as well as our open house coming up on Saturday, May 9th. Again, a great way to come and see what campus is like for yourself. Decide right then and there if you can see yourself as a McMaster Marauder, and come chat with us because James and I will be there. And Arian actually will be too. So you can come and see us all on campus and get any of your questions answered. If you really enjoyed this event, we actually have another one coming up soon on Tuesday, April 28th, called Housing and Hospitality, where you get to learn a little bit about all things about food and housing on McMaster, what that looks like for you as a first year. There also will be a survey coming your way, so feel free to fill that out if that's something that you'd like to do. Thank you all so much to our panel, to our audience for taking the time to listen to us gab away for the last hour about all the things that made our experiences unique. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody.
Bye.